Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture, where I have with me, and I hope I get the name right, Austin Osueke, who is the founder of Comic Distro. So, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I am very excited because this is definitely a little bit outside of me speaking with comic creators and voice actors and professional wrestlers and cosplayers, but I really like the entire concept of this. I like the fact that it's extremely entrepreneurial. I like disruptors. And having said all that, you, in my opinion, are trying to become and hopefully will become a disruptor in the comic industry as Comic Distro is this company, and I think you're officially launching on April 18th or April 17th, 18th of basically in 6 weeks, give or take 4 to 6 weeks, where you guys are trying to get indie comics into comic shops. And so I don't know if I missed anything, but I think the best place to start is what is Comic Distro? If I already didn't hit it on the head with what I just stated.
That's exactly what it is. It's a platform that enables comic book publishers to sell their comic books directly to comic book stores.
Yeah, and as I stated, I think this is a disruptor, and I like disruptors. So, where did this idea even come from? Because I think people have been trying to do this forever, and I think that some people have tried to create companies, and I think that you guys sort of have a better platform per se than some other companies out there. But where did this idea come from, and how did it even conceptualize? And what has been the journey to here? Because I think it is important to know where this came from and also what the core values of this are. Because it's
Right.
not just about making money, there's more to it than that.
Right. So it started, well, I'm also publisher of Ego Manga. We publish manga, original English language manga, and we've been publishing comic books, graphic novels, and manga for about 20 years. And as a publisher of Ego Manga, we worked with many distributors such as Diamond Comics, several other mass market distributors like Sorcerer Link, Ingram at some points, and we also circulated our books to schools, libraries, government institutions. So with that whole 20 year experience working with distributors and publishing books, we have an understanding of how um, comic book distribution works when it comes to building it and supplying it to retail to distributors for them to sell it to retail from their end. And so I basically just want to say it's we just saw there's a need for comic book distribution for everybody basically because the Diamonds is a strong partner in distribution, but they have been essentially the only one for the last 30 years.
For those who don't know, and I'll interject, where at some point there was 9 or 10 distributors, and basically, it eventually went down to 9, then it went down to 8, then it went down to 6, and it went down to 5, and then for a while, and Marvel I think wasn't using Diamond at a certain point; they're using somebody else, and then eventually Diamond sort of beat out their competition or acquired it. And there's a whole story of distribution where now, in order to get your book into most comic shops, you need to, unless you're printing a small batch, which Indy does, you then need to essentially go through Diamond to get into the 1900 or 2500 comic shops that are in the US. And then I don't know exactly how it works, internationally, but that's kind of where this goes, where there is no other alternative for getting into comic shops unless you're knocking on doors and you have an indie book, or if you're somehow printing in house to some degree, which very few people can do technically. So that's kind of a little bit of the background, I think, where this is saying, hey, you can get your book into something and you don't need to have a 10,000 print run to do it.
Exactly right. So basically, the situation with Diamond is that as a publisher, you have to submit your book to them, and it's either a yes or a no for them. So if yes, then things are great. But if no, then you have to then fend for yourself. And for just a while, Diamond was a gatekeeper for many comic book distributors. I mean, comic book publishers, and they dictated the business life of a comic book company, and that doesn't seem very fair. And it just seems for a long time it's like it's been bottlenecked by Diamond, and they've only wanted to focus on major enterprise level companies, and that came to reality back in 2009 when they did some kind of like a purge of many independent publishers that they would carry. They had like a $2,000 benchmark where a publisher had to meet, and if they felt that you couldn't meet it, then they would not carry you anymore. So a lot of publishers like myself, even established companies like I don't want to say names, but a lot of established companies, they were cut off from Diamond, and we all had to fend for ourselves. A lot of manga publishers were cut off, but they did very well because they were able to work with other um, mass market distributors like Scholastic, and they just did rocket ships compared to they did so much better on their own and all that. But that's not really the case for a lot of other independent um, creators and publishers. And we just don't believe that one company or a handful of distribution companies should dictate the business life of a comic book publisher, especially if they started out if they don't have a track record. So we leveraged our knowledge of comic book distribution, comic book publishing, fulfilling orders to stores, and just built this platform that's available for everybody, whether you are an established publisher or if you're starting out or even just you're a self-published creator. We want you to be able to have the ability to sell your books to stores and thrive as a business without having to it be dictated by someone else. And I
And
think I want to say one other thing. What really just like as a founder, I started this about a year ago, and what really motivated me, what really set me off, and just said I got to do this, was that we wanted to um, solicit a very popular graphic novel that was very successful in Russia. They had a very popular, award-winning anime movie, but Diamond didn't want to carry it with all the accolades and collateral and just a track record from this one book. Diamond didn't want to pick it up, and that was like enough for me. I said, we can't work this way. And when I talked to other publishers, they had the same shared issue and shared frustration with Diamond in one way or another. So we just felt that we just have to there has to be another way for publishers to get their books in stores, and not everybody has a strong sales team where they can just sell directly to stores nationwide, coast to coast. Um, and that's why we did it. And this whole pandemic just totally was a it was more everyone saw the realities of the situation when this pandemic happened, when Diamond closed, stopped shipping books for like a number of months, and many publishers had to stop making books. Even DC had to say had to leave Diamond and work with other groups and such. It's just system isn't working, so we needed to build Comic Distro.
And so to even talk about that, obviously, I think it's been evident that COVID has changed the way business is being done. And I know that your business isn't not predicated on Kickstarter, but Kickstarter has exploded in the last 2 years. And it has gone so much further. And I know that Comic Distro is not an exclusive, meaning that you could still put your book anywhere else. You could still do Kickstarter. You could still make sure that all your Kickstarter backees get all those perks and everything they want. And then the whole point of Comic Distro is to get into comic shops. It's not to compete with Kickstarter. And obviously, a lot of DC, Marvel, both didn't publish forever during COVID, and they got behind. It was the first time Indy ever got a leg up. And so I think that that's something also to keep in mind, where Diamond isn't this infinite, monster. And also there's this concept where certain things couldn't get published under Diamond, and maybe they could get published under Comic Distro. Maybe there's a concept here where, if Diamond says no, but maybe you have a fan base that you're going to be doing $8,000 every single month on your book, but, Diamond doesn't want to touch it for whatever reason. Or another publisher, and I forget who DC is using, and I'm sure you know it more than me at the moment. I think Scout just signed with them too, where it's this idea maybe they don't want to touch it, but, there you go. Or English manga is a good example of that too, where I don't know how many English original mangas Diamond touches. And so I think that's what we're solving here, or you're solving more importantly, is that problem where it's now that, you can get into a comic shop in an easier way, much like they would get it from Diamond. They can now order from Comic Distro. And so on that note, I kind of want to walk through how this entire process works.
Right.
Because this is super important. I know that your website goes through it, but there's, I guess, two paths. There's for the creator, and then there's for the retailer. But I want to start with the creator, because most of the people that this is going to be put into Facebook groups with, and a bunch of my friends are probably really curious how this is all going to work. And I'm going to try to convince them to maybe give this a shot. So I'm a creator, and my book is formatted. It's PDF ready. I know that you guys have a system, and how you have a guideline of how that has to be formatted. I follow all that system. What do I have to do to get on your platform for starters?
First of all, the account is free. You just set up a free account. You state that you're a publisher. You just put your basic information, your name, and the address of your business, because this is a business-to-business platform. Once you have your free accounts, you are able to upload your print-ready PDF to the website. And we have like you mentioned earlier, we do have a preparation guidelines on how you prepare correctly to get it printed out. But you upload your PDF onto the platform, and you enter your book information, like your book title, the issue or volume number, the description of your book, various printing details of your book, like the paper quality, the book size, and all that stuff. So once you put all that information in there and it's entered correctly, your book is automatically listed into our catalog. And it's sorted out based off of its category, whether it's sci-fi or adventure, whatnot. It's just there. And so it's a one first come first serve thing. We're not trying to prioritize other publishers or other people ahead of anybody. Whoever's uploaded their work first it shows up first on our homepage. So that's that. So your work's up there, and it's, as a publisher, you can also continue to have more visibility of your comic book by making articles about your company or your studio, about the comic itself. You can also make a profile of your whole studio to let retailers know who you guys are, who you are, and what you're all about. And there's also social media components to it, where you can share your catalog page onto your website, onto social media, and things like that. So those are there. So when a retailer is ready to buy your comic book on Comic Distro, they go to the website and they place orders for it on wholesale. There's a minimum of books that they can buy for their stores. So once they buy the books and they successfully place the order, the PDF is automatically sent to our printing partner, an established, reputable comic book printing company that would print the comic book and ship the comic books to the stores. And
And so I want to make this clear. So the creator at this point incurs no costs, in which that the complete cost is shifted onto whoever's ordering the books, and then obviously there's printing costs involved, and whatever's the profit out of all of that entire transaction gets kicked back to the creator. So essentially, whatever you're wholesaling the book, the minimum order, the book is printed, and then if there's a 25% profit margin, that is kicked back to the creator if it costs 75 of the entire order to print the entire thing. Just to give reference sort of to everybody, if that makes any sense.
well, yeah, there is no upfront cost ever for your book. So if you upload a book or have a book made or whatever, the publisher, the creator doesn't have to pay for it upfront. There are printing costs, but it's deducted from your profit, from your revenue share. So, however you set the parameters of your book,
Yeah.
if it's cost that much a print, then those costs are just deducted from your overall um, revenue that you get back. But we want to emphasize there's no upfront costs. Um,
There's no capital as a creator that I have to put in once my book is uploaded.
no, just have a print ready PDF high res uploaded to the platform, and it's just there. And the costs goes is from the not the cost, but the retailers, whoever placed the orders, they're making the payments. They're paying in part the shipping and the printing and the shipping to their stores. So unless you want to print it yourself, that's another thing. But when it comes to the selling your book and getting to stores, there's no cost to the creators or publishers. We want to make this platform very painless and easy and very attractive to everybody, especially independent publishers.
And the reason why I ask this is because I think this is one of the things that where the liability is not put on the creator. You know, when you run a Kickstarter, and just to give an example, and I speak to a lot of Kickstarters, you know, you're basically covering all the expenses of printing the book and producing the book and paying for the art. And so now when the book is done, and then let's say that you're not using your service, you still have to pay for all those printing costs. Essentially, you're helping to solve both that printing costs and that the creator has to put up no additional capital. And then you're also helping getting it printed and distributed into comic stores. And the reason why I want to make this crystal clear is because I want people to understand that what exactly this service is providing and what problem it's solving. Because I think it is important that people understand that that's what you guys as Comic Distro are solving, is you're covering printing and distribution. And all I have to do is bring the content, and then you guys handle the distribution of that content. And that's the relationship. And so having said that, you know, comic collecting and comic book reading is very interesting. And obviously people on these Kickstarters have variants. So is there a way that people could have covers A's and cover B's and cover C's? Because sometimes a comic shop might say, man, we know this cover C is slamming good. And we know that we're going to be able to sell this cover C and it's going to fly off. And obviously some of these Kickstarters, and I'm sure you've taken a look, have awesome cover art. And so is there an option to have multiple covers as long as those PDF files, or do they have to be just separate books collectively uploaded separately, or can they all be, and then it's almost like a drop-down menu? How does that work on the platform?
Well, yeah, we do have options for variant covers, and to basically we feel that variant covers are different product. It's the same content inside, but just different covers. So yeah, like what we initially when we had the beta, we didn't think about variants, but we saw that it's very important for in a lot of Kickstarter campaigns, and obviously in the '90s there are a lot of variant covers in. So when we were building that beta, we were just learning more of the needs of the publishers. So we did add that option for variants and special variant covers. Like let's say if there's an exclusive, an artist exclusive or whatever, we just definitely made listings to make sure that the publishers can can upload books for variants and exclusive variants. We call it specials or whatnot, but we just treat those as different products, same content, but different covers and all that, and they're treated differently. Well, they're listed as different books on our platform, but as we grow as a platform, we want to continue to address the needs of publishers. So if there's anything in the future that's we need to put in there because of the changing of the business or whatever, we'll do that. And that's what we love about building this platform, is that it's a living platform. It's just we keep making updates and keep making modifications to make things better for the publisher and the retailer.
And then to even go further off of this, because I know you guys also do graphic novels and that entire section, and obviously people gather their work then into 4 or 5 issue trade paperbacks. And obviously, what is the minimum and maximum for a comic issue? And I guess what is known as a single issue? What is the minimum and maximum for a graphic novel? Because obviously, some people now, they might not want to put out necessarily 4 issues and have them ordered up in a comic shop, but they want to put out a trade paperback. And they have it all formatted digitally, and maybe they just did a Kickstarter to put it out, their trade paperback, on their Kickstarter. But now since it's all digital, they say, hey, I want to put this out in a graphic novel. And so how does that all work? Because obviously it's a little bit different, and what type of, bounding and binding does a graphic novel have, and how many pages can you have? Because different issues have different page counts and all that stuff. And I think it's super important for creators to know sort of those dimensions. I know it's on your website, but I do think hearing it, especially because it's going in a bunch of indie comic groups, and I have a bunch of friends who in the next probably 6 months are going to be releasing graphic novels. I'm going to be directing them towards this.
Right. So as you know, the difference between a floppy independent single issue comic book and a graphic novel trade paperback manga is that the floppy uses saddle stitch binding, and all the other books, graphic novels, trade paperbacks, mangas, they use perfect binding. So on our platform, the difference between a comic book and a graphic novel trade paperback is how many pages you enter into your listing. I don't have the site in front of me right now, but I believe the maximum pages for a single issue book would be 44 pages. So anything over 44 pages will be automatically listed as a graphic novel, trade paperback, manga. However the publisher distinguished their book. But yeah, so that would be the limit. It's automatically set on the platform. So if you call it, if you have like a 24-page book, then it's going to be a comic book. If it's a 60-page book, it's automatically going to be a graphic novel. So it's just how you set the page count, interior page count of the book, that will distinguish it from being a single issue floppy comic or graphic novel. Manga is different. Basically, like I said, manga is also perfect binding, but the manga size for our platform is about 5x8. So if you call your book a manga, you'd expect that it'd be the manga size. But for our platform, a graphic novel will be about the same size as a conventional comic book, 6x6, 3x10.25. So they will have the same type of height and width, just different. Comic books and graphic novels will have the same type of width on our platform, but just different binding, depending on the page count. In manga, like I said, it'll be smaller because that's just how it is conventionally is thought of right at the moment.
And then to also just talk about that, and I think it's obvious, you can print in both black and white, and you can print in color, and I think that's super. Or your comic printer company that you're partnering with can print in color and print in black and white, and probably do a mixture of both depending on certain books and all that and how that works. And so if your book is a black and white manga, they can print it. If it's, a colored manga, which there are a few out there, it can be printed as well. So that's something that I do want to mention. And even talking about comic books, people do care about how their comics look and how pristine it is and what type of paper. And so what is everything going on with that paper? Because I think that's one of the concerns about any type of publishing deal. And people have had issues with printers in the past. And I know people who said I had to drop my printer when I was printing my book for Kickstarter, versing, and then I had to go to this person. And then I finally, after 3 or 4 rounds, found the right printer. And so how do you assure the quality and make sure that it's appropriate and make sure that everybody knows that they're getting the right paper to print on? Because I think the worst thing anybody wants as a comic creator is a store buying their comic and then it being printed on poor quality.
Right. So first of all, if a comic book interior pages is color, we change the inside paper. It would be like definitely a glossy. I can't think of it. I don't know if it's 60 or 50 pound glossy, but nonetheless, if you choose black and white color, it's a difference in the paper quality. First of all, second of all, our printer that we work with a company called Robertson Anderson Printing. They are based in Sacramento. We're based in San Jose. We've worked with them for about 10, 15 years with our own comic books that we release to stores, to mass market, and to comic book conventions. Robertson Anderson, they are an established comic book printing company. They've been printing comics for a long time, and it's one of their specialties. So we know that we're working with many different comic book publishers, and printing is very important for everybody. So we want to make sure that the comic books printed by Robertson Anderson are standard industry quality comic books, and that they'll know that this book is a real comic book and that it's in this industry quality. And yeah, that's all. I in printing comic books.
So you use them for your books, and your books are distributed outward. And so from your experience, you trust them with your work, and your work is distributed into comic shops, and you've been with them for 10, 15 years. And so obviously, and I'm sure you've gone through printers as well, and I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about, where anybody who's been in comics has had a bad printing experience with somebody. And I'm not going to name names either. So, but it's this idea that in your experience in the last 15 years, you haven't had a problem with them, and that's why you have partnered with them based on your experience.
Well, yes, I partnered with them with because we worked together for our stuff for a long time, and they've
earned your business and they've earned your trust.
Yeah, and they have their printing prices are very competitive out there. That's very important for us to pass on the savings to the publishers. We don't want them to be gouged by the cost of printing comic books, especially on a type of model. And comic with Robertson Anderson, we've worked with him for a long time. We on our part, there's a lot of we did a lot of trial and error. We saw comics that didn't work, printings that didn't work, or printings that did work. So with our just working with them, building our own books, whether they're graphic novels, manga, or single issue floppies, we worked with them to make sure that our books have been good over time, and not only just good over time, but good enough to sell at San Diego Comic Con, or at comic book shops, or even at mass market stores like Barnes and Nobles, and even through Kickstarter, because we've also been a part of Kickstarter as well. And I want to say about Kickstarter was just a very good example of the spirit of the need for independent comics. People love independent comics. They've contributed literally millions of dollars on comics and Kickstarter. So for a distributor like Diamond to say no, your comics aren't good enough for us, but platforms like Kickstarter and the artists are succeeding very well because they're people want their stuff. It just shows you that there's a love for independent comics, and you shouldn't have to work with a gatekeeping bottleneck company to mess up your business, pretty much.
Because one of the things that happens, and I was speaking, I don't know if you know Travis Gibb, and he just released a book called Cthulhu Invades Oz. And if he said, well, at some point it might end up with a publisher either purchasing a licensing right to it, but it's a big book, and they might cut pieces of it out. And so if you go to a company like, Diamond through another company, Diamond might say, hey, we like, 85% of this book. But if you guys go through Comic Distro, you're not going to touch anything in the book as long as it meets the page count. And that's kind of, I think, what some of the gatekeeping is when you even get it past the first gate, is that when you're dealing now with a big publisher who might do creator owned, and has to get it to Diamond, Diamond might have a say in it. Or they might know that Diamond might not like, you have a 150 page book and a piece of that has to get cut out because it doesn't work, and then that's the story you love. And now I think this is also, and I don't know the exact parameters, and that might not be the best example, but I do think it is important to note that you could have an odd number graphic novel, like a 108 page graphic novel, and now you don't have to worry about needing, Diamond needs 124 pages, that type of attitude. I think that's sort of gatekeeping too, that goes really into the business. And I think that this is a deterrent of that, having abnormal stuff, or if you have a comic issue or a series that ends on issue 33, now, it can be very, very weird to print that per se with a traditional printer. But this is untraditional, for lack of a better word. This is an alternative, and this is a solution to Indy. So I do think that this is a good thing. And also with Kickstarter, there's Kickstarters that are killing it right now. I mean, it's evident that, I just backed the Kickstarter that has 25 days left, and it's already done over 80 grand. And so it's a crazy graphic novel, and I understand it's a little bit different, but even still, I think Kickstarter has become bigger and bigger and bigger, and I feel like Comic Distro is, okay, now that my Kickstarter is sort of done, what can I do next with this book? And even to go on to that, I mean, let's say somebody has their first issue out, and they sort of printed their 500 copies out. Now they get onto Comic Distro, they get into a bunch of comic shops, and then they want to use Comic Distro and your printer to basically say, hey, this is really good. How does that work for them to almost use that directly to order their books? Because I think that's something that is kind of one of the next steps. If people are happy with how the printing is being done and they're happy with the price of the printing, how does somebody on Kickstarter say, hey, I'm really happy and I'm going to put this eventually onto Comic Distro for issue 2, but how do I use the printer, or would that just be a separate thing altogether?
Well, right now, the reason why we're just focusing on only one printer is because we're addressing a need that retailers have, is that a lot of times retailers have late books or poor quality books or damaged books or whatever. So if we consolidate all of our printing with one printer, we can guarantee that the books will be on a consistently quality quality, and it will be shipped to the retailers on time. So with the issue with Diamond is that Diamond, they will give you a purchase order of how many books that they need to ship to stores and all that, and it's up to you to print the books. So if you have a bad printer or something happens, your print may be can be late, and having a late shipment is a bad thing for Diamond and for retailers. So at this stage, we needed to make sure that we have a consistent quality printing company that has a strong background in warehousing, fulfillment, distribution, so that your book will shipped on time to retailers, and that whole concern about quality or late shipment will be eliminated with one printing group. Um, Back to Kickstarter, I just want to say like it's great that everyone's succeeding on Kickstarter. Well, comic creators are succeeding on Kickstarter, but I believe that there's still a dream for a comic book creator to still have their books in a comic book store. It's great to raise a lot of money and ship books directly to comic book your fans and see them at conventions, but just to have your book in a comic book store on the shelves alongside other great titles, it's I think well for me as a as a comic book creator, it's a great thrill and all that. In addition of having a great successful Kickstarter and meeting fans at comic.
I think it goes even further, and I think that a lot of people like getting their book funded, and they can't do it without Kickstarter. But I also think that part of the issue is that I think the real money in all of this is that you have a Kickstarter. Let's say that you wanted 2,500, you did $5,000. That's a really good Kickstarter. You did 200% over is your goal.
Mhm.
It's really good. But $5,000 it doesn't make or break you. But if all of a sudden what starts happening is that you get into comic shops after, and now on your first issue you sold 10,000 on top of your Kickstarter, because I think that that's where the real money comes in. And I think part of the problem, because that's how DC and Marvel make money, is that they have such volume that so many people buy their books. And also they make money with merchandise and characters and a variety of other methodologies with stuff. But obviously on the comic front, they make their money because they have such volume. And so now I feel that prior to this, and there's a few other people that have done stuff or tried to do stuff in the last 20 years dealing with stuff like this, where now this gives the ability to get into stores and actually get that money and actually make substantially more money off of a Kickstarter, because not everybody's doing a Scott Snyder or a Todd McFarlane or a Curse Words, which is sitting on my table over there, and it's a really cool book. But doing 100,000 for a brand new indie creator doesn't happen overnight, if at all ever. Doing
Right.
$5,000 can happen, and so I think that you're granting people into the position of being able to get into comic shops and actually get that 10, 6, 5-figure position. So I think that's kind of where the real money is. Because,
Yeah.
and especially if they don't have to put any capital in beyond the Kickstarter, because that means everything in that comic shop minus their printing costs is profit.
Absolutely. I couldn't have rephrased it better if I tried, but that's exactly how we see things. It's with Kickstarter, it's great. You raise money, but you still part of that money that you raise has to go into paying for the rewards that you that you that your pledges are entitled to. So if you raise like 5,000, 200, 2,500, half of that has to probably go into printing those rewards and all that stuff. But with Comic Distro, you just upload your PDF and the system take cares of the printing cost and fulfillment and distribution. You don't have to put any upfront costs, anything regarding our platform. Just have your PDF ready and printable, and that's all you have to deal with. And you can have when you through your account, you have access to your sales, so you can see how it's performing, and you can also see who's buying your books, what stores are buying your books. So afterwards, you can directly reach out to these stores through Comic Distro and just um, say if you wanted to do like a signing or if
That's what I was about to ask.
special type things. So we definitely wanted this easy relationship between comic book publishers and retailers, and for everybody to do well in this industry. And I just it should be, people say it is dying and it's going to be extinct. The single issue book is because of the way it's set up now, with how Diamond set up the whole comic book distribution, where they're only focused on enterprise level books, and it doesn't have to be that way if everybody's able to just dictate the business of their own comics without having to work with any middleman that can say yes or no to their work.
And so to talk about that, because you mentioned something that I think is also super important and very helpful. I haven't created a comic yet. I may or may not. I got a lot of stuff going on, sort of on the opposite side of this equation. But one of the things that you can directly communicate with stores once they pick up your books. And so if a store picks up your book and they order 25 or 50 copies, you can say, hey, I live 30 miles away. Do you want me to do a signing? And you might even be able to say, and I don't know what exactly the guidelines are, but you might say, hey, if you order 100 copies, I'm more than happy to come in your store, sign all of them. Anytime you need me to come in, even if you order 50, I'm more than happy to sign, 25 of them. I'm more than happy, my co-creator, I'm more than happy to do something. If you guys want to have like an event or a signing with some other people, because comic shops obviously have signings, maybe not with COVID out there right now, but obviously a lot of times all these stores have signings, and maybe, a comic shop has a weekend where they have free, and they're like, oh man, I just got 25 of these books, and this person lives 20 miles away. Yeah, sure, come in. We'll do like a signing, and maybe I'll order another 25 because I cater to 700 people, and I got 700 pull lists for people. Sure, I'll order 50 books and we'll see what happens. So I think that's a nice feature too, because there's a saying, I don't know if you're familiar with ClickFunnels, but Russell Brunson, who created ClickFunnels, he was teaching a webinar class. I think so you have to be the most valuable or the most expensive or the cheapest. You have to be one of those three. And this obviously adds value when you're able to sign a book and communicate with the shop. Or, for instance, if you know something about the book or an issue 2, say, hey, I'm just letting you know that issue 2 is going to be a bigger thing, and we got a variant coming out that's going to come out on Comic Distro. So just watch out for it in the next month. If they bought a bunch of issues 1, there you go. So that could be very helpful as well, sort of giving insight into a comic shop.
Yeah, so we just I would assume that many local creators have that same relationship with their local comic book stores anyway. They can just walk into their store and say, hey, I want to do a book signing, and just let me, if there's a chance, let me do it. So we want to have that type of relationship available on our platform as well. I know for certain that Diamond, like once as a publisher, once I got the purchase orders of the books and such, I had no idea what stores are buying the books, where they're going to, and all that. I just knew I just had to fulfill them and all that stuff. So it'd have been nice, like if I knew who bought my book. So if I knew that if a local store bought my book, I could literally just say, go to their store the next day and say, hello, thank you for buying my books, and I'm here, and I'll be happy to do any special deals with you for our books or give you comps or whatever. Just I want that. We were looking for that. Just organic.
I'll even one up you on that point. So let's say that you are a comic book creator and you do a bunch of cons, and that maybe you live in New York, I'm living in Connecticut, you're in California, and let's say that I just produced a cool book. It's got some popularity. The Kickstarter did really well, and I'm going down to New Orleans for a Comic-Con. Just because I wanted to go down there. It's sort of a family vacation, and I'm sort of stopping by, and maybe I got a table down there, and we're going on a road trip. All of a sudden, let's say a New Orleans shop bought my thing. That's not a local store for me. So I might purposely now go out of my way, or let's say I look at the con directory and they're going to be there. I might call up, or maybe I'll bring them like a gift or something of, like, let's say I have an original piece of art. I'm going to say, hey guys, you bought like 100 copies of my book. I just wanted to give this to you. For buying my book. This is not a local thing. And you might do something like that because it's not even a local store, or you might have leftover rewards from a Kickstarter that you ran. Say, hey guys, my name is so-and-so, and you guys bought 100 books from me about 6 months ago. I'm just giving this to you because I actually was just taking a family road trip at this con. My table's over there. And so I'm thinking about it even like that, because I think it's going to connect people who are not in local markets. And somebody might say, hey, look, let me just send you some of these Kickstarter rewards and some cool stuff that you could throw into the book, and things like that. And then I even think beyond going local,
Yeah.
and so now if there's a store 300 miles away, you might not visit that store, but you say, hey, look, I got like, shark magnets that are part of my book, for instance. Let me send you like, like 15 to include with your book for the first 15 people who buy it. And now you look good and the store looks good. So that's what I'm thinking is that this changes the game because again, we're adding value. We're not, doing stuff like that. So I think it's an amazing feature to connect people and also makes things, and it makes the comic creator or the artist or whoever put the book up there or the studio or the company, seem more human and not, in this digital monstrous
Yeah.
world. And I think that's something that also is very helpful with Indy versus I don't view DC Comics as a human. I just backed the Kickstarter and I just got the book digitally and I view that person as a human. If that makes sense, and I know it's a weird statement. Like I view you as a human because we're talking right now and we're seeing each other.
That's what we hope to just get out of this comic distro. Just comic book publishers and retailers working together, just making everybody better as a business, and then overall, hopefully the industry and all that. And yes, we are not DC, we're not Marvel, but we are people, and we're creative, and so just know who we are, and let's just have a good relationship and all that. That's what I envisioned, and that's what we want to emphasize, and that's we made this tool for um, available for comic distro so that this can happen because it's like you said, we have a lot of like publishers in Africa, right? They don't because of the fact that their region they have a difficult time getting distribution in the stateside, but our platform it helps us connect because there's a lot of let's say black owned comic book stores. They want to supply African books and all that stuff, African books. So these guys from Nigeria or whatever, if they do come to Comic Con or whatever, and they end up they find out that a company in Los Angeles bought their books, they could just go there and, like you said, do signings, to give them gifts, speak or whatever, and we just.
I didn't even think about it internationally, and that's a game changer in of itself. Where and you could call me ignorant, and please do if I'm wrong, but I don't anticipate Africa to have the same market as Japan has with comics, or with France has with comics, or the United States, because I think those three markets are the three largest markets. Not saying people in the continent of Africa don't read comics, but that's not like I have a comic product that I'm building. I am specifically marketing to the United States for a reason, and I'm specifically marketing to Japan and France and the UK because I know those markets are going to hit. And so, I've done data research on this, and so, but I think it's super interesting because if you're in Nigeria, and we're going to use them as an example, your market is probably in the US. But if you had to print books in Nigeria, ship them overseas, there would be no money in it. And if you're printing in the US and distributing in the US through your printer, and a US company then can do it, and they're paying in US dollars, now there's no credit card entire transaction, somebody who's producing a comic that might not be making any money can make a bunch of money now. And so they could actually have a legitimate business because they've also eliminated an entire international charge, which is
Right.
big money in big numbers.
So yeah,
That's a whole different ball game that I didn't even think about until you mentioned it.
so yeah, as a publisher, I saw the trend in various West African books out there, and we also saw how other regions like the Philippines and Italy and other countries are underserved because, like I said, they couldn't get into diamond because of tax reasons or other shipping reasons and all that stuff. And we want to do our part to eliminate that. And then there's companies like there's a French publisher that we work with. They're big in France, but they're just disgusted with the whole distribution system here and all that. So they love the idea of what we're doing, and we are happy to do our best to work with them and to get their books available again in the U.S. and all that. So it's we want to help every publisher, whether it's you're large, small, regardless of the region you're in. Just we believe that everybody wants to see their books in a book comic book shelves, and that's what we want to do, and that's that.
And I do want to reiterate, and I think I mentioned it already, that this is a non-exclusive agreement
Right.
between you and the creator. And so the creator can still fulfill their Kickstarter, can still do all their Kickstarter privately if they so choose to, and they sort of have something figured out with that. And then they say, hey, I just now want to get into comic shops through you guys. They can do that, and then they could also sell their books at shows without any reprisal, and there's gonna like be no penalty, because I think I want to make this clear for those who are into this, and I know a lot of my friends, and out of the I think almost 250 interviews that I've done in the last 6 years, and probably 100 of them are indie comic creators. A bunch of them have books that they want to distribute at cons, and so they can do that and handle all of that as well. So I do want to reiterate that and make sure that is fully analyzed. And then I do want to quickly talk about the retail side,
Well,
because one of the things is that, so I'm a retailer now. How is that all handled? Because I would imagine it's sort of a separate account to some degree.
right. Well, as to go back to your non-exclusivity, you're absolutely right. We are a non-exclusive platform. If you have a distributor, or you have the commitments with other distributors or other things, go ahead and do that. We're not trying to interfere or change your business model. We're a resource for for creators and publishers, and we're not the publisher. We're not taking exclusive. We're not taking ownership of your work. We're not a licensee. We aren't publishers, like I said. We are a resource and non-exclusive one. So, and it's a free account. You can cancel anytime and take your books off our platform. It's we're not owning claiming any ownership or licensing your book or any of that stuff.
So I'm gonna ask a
As
question. Can
well.
somebody take off? Let's say that they had issues 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the trade paperback's coming out, and they just want people to buy the trade paperback. They could take off issue 1, for instance, and they could keep issues 2, 3, and 4 up there for whatever reason. Or let's say that they might have a new cover of issue 1 coming out because they want to do something fun, so they might take off the old one and then re-upload it and with a new cover. So that's totally okay and fair and everything in that.
Yeah, they can take out their comic or decommission it or just not have it available. No problem, without any issues with the system. If a publisher, no, if someone on the platform, if they like the book or they favorite it or add it on their favorite selection of books and all that stuff, those people are notified that that book is taken off or decommissioned on all that stuff. So there is an automatic system in place where it notifies whoever wants to follow that book or that studio or whatever, if there's any changes of that book, like if it's like
Because
cancel.
I'll give an example. Sometimes somebody might say, "Oh my God, I made a typo and something happened," and they want to correct it, and they're
Yeah,
going to re-upload the book. And they say, "Hey, I just want to fix this problem because I realized something happened." And 3 months later, like, "Oh my God, I got to fix this problem," and something happened that doesn't make sense, and I got to move panel A to panel 2 and move this around. And like 2 weeks later, they fix the problem and upload it back up.
yeah, you can always upload the contents of your book, whether it's the information, the text information, like the details and all that stuff. You can upload that. You can also upload the cover, the PDFs, all the any aspect of your book. You can always edit and update anytime. And like I said, you can always make a new variant of the book. Just make a new product. Just add, and we can clone the details, the content, the information from the existing book onto the new book, but have a different cover as a variant. So
So cool.
updating is fine. There's no problem. Um, the only issue is that like if a book is already in print, like if a customer's already bought the book, and it's already going through the printing fulfillment situation, then that book is already too late to be updated. But you can always update it afterwards, or any you can anytime you can upload it. It's just when at a specific transaction when the book is being paid, it's been paid for and printed. That transaction is probably too late because it's already the printer already has it. And at some point, I mean, we can still change stuff. It's a little we can do it, but it's just
Right. No. My entire thing is that let's say that book's been ordered 300 times, comic shops have it, they're not complaining. You say, oh man, I just put an S here, and I didn't want that S there, and you're one of those people, or that you want to just throw up a new cover, every 3 years to give it a new fresh paint. That's because I know people who do that on their Kickstarters every once in a while, where they throw up a new, fresh coat of paint, and they like doing it because it keeps the book fresh. It also is this idea where they want those first backers to have this really cool thing, and then they want the new people not to have that, 400 print run, for instance, or maybe somebody realizes that, oh snap, I printed 10,000 copies. It's time for the next 10,000 to look a little bit different, so that the first 10,000 people don't get the same thing, and they have something a little bit more exclusive. That type of thing, because I know people who do that, and they like to mix that up at certain intervals because they want certain people and they want their first backers to feel special. And so that's what I think is my point there. But getting back to the retailer. So now you're a retailer. How does that all work? Where do you sign up? And I'm assuming it's free to sign up.
yes.
And then you pay for the books that you want printed to your store. And so obviously this is all wholesale. So how does that work as well? Who sets the exact price for that? And are there minimum prices that cover the printing, and then you could add on to that, or how does that all work?
Right. So yeah, to be a retailer, it's a free sign up. You just tell the system that you're a retailer, but you still have the same properties and attributes as a publisher. You can make your own books if you want all that. Um, the way prices go, the publisher sets the prices. So let's say if a publisher wants to sell a book at suggested retail price of $10, the it costs maybe I don't know, like $2 to print, the printing costs, and the publisher, they set the discounts for the retailer. At our stage, so we recommend 50% discounts off the cover price. So if the book is $10 as a suggested retail price, and the publisher sets the discounts to 50%, the retailer pays the wholesale price, which would be $5 for that. And so that's how it goes. And then we have coupons on the website where if for additional savings for the retailer, um, they can enter a coupon code and get additional discounts. But that's how it goes. They buy the books at wholesale, which is dictated by the percentage. The percentage is dictated by the publisher, and they also have to buy like a minimum copies for their stores, because this is a business. We're not trying to sell one book, one copy. We want this is to be a business for the
Right.
publisher. So they have to buy a minimum amount of books for their stores and all that. So when they buy,
This is my question, because this is where this gets interesting, is how much information is given to the comic book stores? Because again, some of this stuff that a comic store never heard of, and then with Indy, there's some big names. Jamie Tyndall is on Kickstarter. He just had Miss Meow that did $76,000 in January. He's having another one that's obviously going to do probably close to 50, if not more, $1,000. And so everybody knows who Jamie Tyndall is. So a comic store is not going to be scared to order a Jamie Tyndall. But then I have a friend, and I don't know if do you know Chuck Pino by any chance?
no, sorry.
It's okay. I'll introduce you to Chuck. He's a great person to know.
Mhm.
So my point, and he doesn't mind me saying this, but somebody might not know who Chuck Pino is. And so how much information about each book does a comic store get, and who determines that? Because I was going through the website, and some books have more information and other books have less. So is that a publisher call, or is that just a website call, or who has the control over that? Because I'm of the nature that if you give me 10 pages, I can sort of figure out what my customers are going to want with a good description. But if you only give me 4 pages, it's going to be a little bit harder. So who's in the most control, and what are the guidelines?
I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the preview pages.
Yes, exactly. The preview pages.
Yeah,
words were not my strong point on this. I was giving them the runaround versus the direct answer. Like, please.
Yeah, we leave that we leave that up to the publisher. Some of the publishers on our platform put all of their pages of their comic book as a preview, and that's fine. And then there are other publishers that has put like 3 pages. Sometimes it's just, we felt that it's up to the publishers to dictate how many pages of previews that they want. When we, like, for example, Ego Manga, we have our comics on the platform as well. We normally put about like 3 pages on there. We just feel like it's enough information for the publisher, the retailer, to get the feel of the book. But it's all arbitrary. You want to put all the pages of your book as a preview, that's fine. If you want to put as little as 1 page or no information, that's fine. It's up to the creator, the publisher, to put as much information about the book as possible. But just the general information, like the overviews, the creative team, the page count, all that stuff.
So is that required, certain things? Like who wrote it, who's the artist, the page count? Because, I mean, right off the bat, I'm not a retailer, but I would imagine that seems like it would have to be required.
Yeah,
versus something, and also like the price of the book. You know what I mean? It's like, it seems to me that you need to let people know certain information that should be required, but having no preview pages or having 30, that seems more arbitrary, I guess, and that seems more, hey, maybe you only need 4 pages of my book to figure out if you want to buy it.
Right. Well, we have certain fields are required, like the printing price, the wholesale price, the book dimensions. Those are required, and those sometimes all that information is already automated in there. So, like if the publisher says that they want to make a comic book, then all the other fields they automatically populate the fields with the correct information. And our the wholesale price is automatically calculated based off of the suggested retail price that the publisher sets, and the discounts. So a lot of fields, it could be a lot of fields on there, but a lot of them is already automatically populated based off of what the publisher puts in. Other things like selling points, creative team, it's up to the discretion of the publisher to put that information in there. But basic information about the book details, like the printing details and the pricing stuff, it's always required, and you can't successfully upload a book onto the catalog until the required fields are entered.
And then let me ask this as well, because I know that you have a variety of different books and different ages on this platform. You have a bunch already out there on your platform, which is awesome, considering I think you're still in beta from my understanding. So you have a lot of stuff available for retailers and for even people just to look at. And I know that you have books that are sort of meant for adults, and they have probably 13 and up, and probably some books are probably 17 and up, and then other books are more, for maybe kids. And so is that required? Because I know that, in a 3-page preview per se, you might not be able to determine if a book is age appropriate. So are those things required? Because I think that's something that would make retailers feel a little bit more comfortable. And I know that, I go to a shop, and I'm not going to mention names. They got 3 stores that are cool, shop in Harrison, and anybody knows the shop I'm talking about will know exactly what I'm talking about. They're a great store. but obviously they cater sometimes to a younger audience, and they cater to both adults and kids, but they definitely focus on doing a little bit more kids and trying to be active. And so that's what I'm thinking about. So is that a requirement, or is that also up to the discretion?
Well, it's a requirement. The field itself is a drop-down field, so
Yeah.
we have a default the default value on that field, and it's up to the publisher to put the appropriate audience for that field. So it's required. It's going to be there. It's not going to be blank. It has to have some type of field in there. We, as administrators, we can check to make sure that the book is appropriate for that audience. So if a publisher,
I was about to ask that too,
if
because
a,
I
if a
think
publisher
that's
if
super
a
important.
publisher miss didn't put in the appropriate age, if they forgot that field, but their book is an adult book, but they set it to all ages, and as administrators we can make those changes for them, and everything will
So
be good.
that's one of the things that I kind of wanted to bring up, because sometimes somebody might think a book is PG-13 and it might be rated M for 17, and they just made the wrong call. So I'm under the assumption that you're not going to go kick somebody off your platform if it's like a first time violation where they just made a bad call.
No,
And
no, not that. We're not going to just no. We're trying to help we're trying to help publishers and retailers just have a good business, but we're not trying to punish anybody.
no. The reason why I asked this is because it is unfortunately, and as you grow, and I'm sure you're well aware that there are going to be situations where people are going to continuously misrepresent a book, and actions are going to have to be taken. But I want to assure people that if you thought it was A and it's your first time and you forgot something, or maybe you made a bad call on something, then you're not going to be immediately ended. It's just going to be like, hey, you forgot to do this. We changed it for you. No worries. Next time, realize that your book is rated M for 17 versus PG-13, or it's not a PG book, it's a PG-13 book. That type of thing, because I think that's something that creators are going to be a little bit concerned about, and I want to put them at ease. So
Right.
that's what we're doing here, is we're clarifying a lot of stuff for people, because I know that a bunch of people are going to see your website and have a bunch of questions, and I'm trying to address as many of them as possible,
No,
because
yeah,
I
and
want this to be successful.
well, yeah, we want to be very transparent and open to everybody, because we put a lot of thought into this platform, and we leverage a lot of our years as publishers and distributors. So we try to think about all aspects of things. But to go back to your issue, we're not here to punish any publisher if they make some type of
An
um,
honest mistake.
clerical data entry mistake. No. Um,
An honest mistake, because it happens, and look, everybody makes them, and so I want to put that at ease, where you're not trying to do that, and I
no.
don't think you don't sound like the guy as the representative of this company at the moment. You don't sound anything like that. I just want to make it crystal clear, so that when somebody says, oh, I'm trying to do this, we could point right to this clip.
Well, go ahead. You can quote me on that. But nonetheless, we have various protocols where reporting protocols, like if we are notified about any type of issues from the community, and we will take action quickly and all that. So to protect the everybody, the publishers, the retailers, and the just general viewing audience. But any issues, like any clerical issues, like again, we're happy to hit. We're here to help, and we're just happy to fix things and just make their books sellable. All we want to do, our aim is we want to make their books get sold. That's all we want to do. We want to help, well, regardless of the content of their book. We just want them to get their book sold to the right stores.
No, and I think that that's awesome, and I would like to see some indie comics in stores, because I hate to say this, but I'm getting sick of Marvel and DC a little bit, and I read very few DC and I read very little Marvel at this point. I'm actually reading a lot more old stuff from DC and Marvel. I just got a Comixology subscription, and no, I do not get paid for it, but I should be. Anyhow, they should be a sponsor. They really should be. I'll happily take that parents company's stock. I will happily take it as a sponsorship. Anyhow, I digress. I digress. But one of the things that I also want to sort of ask you about, and I'm curious, is that how are you bringing in shops, and how are shops getting notified of all of this stuff? Because obviously, that's something that I think that also creators and even retailers, because I would imagine retailers want to sell indie. I mean, you probably can tell me more than I would know, because you've been in the business a lot longer. I've been doing this podcast, this one, for about a year, and I've been doing podcasting surrounding mainstream comics and a little bit of indie, but a lot more indie in the last year, for the last 6 years. And I have a sense of it, but do comic shops and big retailers and even online retailers, I would imagine, do they want to sell indie comics? And how are we bringing them in? Because I want to see this thing get a bunch of people, and I want like every shop to be like, Diamond, we just ordered, like 10 grand from Diamond this month. We just ordered 5 grand from Comic Distro, in which that, we just brought in, and that our pull list now consists of people on the indie scene. And then I want comics. I would say, hey, you might have never heard of my friend Ruben Romero over here, but man, he's got an awesome book. You should check it out, man. And like maybe they got like copies, and like they might just say, hey, man, just read it. Tell me if you like it, type of thing. So how are we bringing them in? Because that's what I'm curious about. And creators are curious about that, and I would imagine if I called up a comic shop and said, do you guys know Comic Distro? They'd be like, what's that? Type of thing.
So basically, we have like a list of about up to 2,000 comic book stores worldwide. Most of them are in North America, California, Texas, and then there's some in the UK, Australia, and all that. And then we have a list of 9,000 bookstore retailers that operate on a direct market distribution model. And we have an advisor on our team that has a retired bookstore owner and distributor that helps us approach these retailers the correct way to let them know who we are, what we're doing, all that stuff. So we would at our launch, or prior to our launch, we would approach all these retailers, tell what we're all about and everything, and then we send out periodic email catalogs about new comics and what's popular on our site and featured and upcoming. So those who choose to stay on our on our email subscriber list will get that periodic email and be notified all the time about that. It's like basically like many, let's say Diamond and other distributors, they send out preview catalogs to these stores and print. Our catalog is mostly going to be digital. We don't plan on sending out books and circulating them out. We're just going to sit. We want to leverage our subscriber list of retailers and bookstore owners and get them up to date on books that on our new stuff that way. And our email campaign is automated, so every X number of days a new email sent out, and it takes a snapshot of the website of the stuff, of the information on the website, and sends it out to the people. So it makes sure that we have a consistent digital marketing all the time, not some human who could have a bad day or have a day off and just not send out the email or whatever. So that's how we plan on doing it. And then there's other ways that we reach out. We definitely will have salespeople that have their feet on the ground, going to various comic book stores and give them incentives to have to buy books from us. We're joining a Booksellers Association, California's Booksellers Association, to help us get more support from the book market, the book buyer market, where being a part of the California Booksellers Association gives you access. We'll get you exposure to retailers on a business level and all that, and just many conventional sales mechanisms. Like I said, feet on the ground and digital marketing to reach out to these comic book store owners and bookstore owners consistently.
And, and even to follow up with that, because I mean, obviously, I have a bunch of friends in this industry now, especially on the indie scene, and a bunch of them after doing almost 100, indie comic people. Obviously, getting people who have never heard of Comic Distro before, and even getting comic creators in there, and comic creators who are running successful Kickstarters and gaining their trust and that stuff, and even just letting them know that you guys exist. Because, I mean, there was somebody that we were speaking about before, and I don't want to mention because he's sort of a friend, he's a colleague, and he covered you guys, and that's how I came across. I was like, oh, this is super interesting, what he was talking about, and just giving a snapshot in 10 minutes. And obviously, we dove into it way more than he did, which I think is super important. And this is going to get out, this interview alone is going to get out into about 30 independent comic groups. So obviously, this is going to help introduce people, and I'm going to sort of preface it saying, hey guys, if you're an indie creator, this might be your distribution solution into indie comic shops, and that's kind of be the tagline. And hopefully they'll watch this and be like, oh my God, Andrew's actually know what he's doing here. But how are you even just letting comic people know and Kickstarter people know that, hey, we exist? Take a look, read our FAQs, watch this interview, check this out, and what's the marketing strategy? Because you need both.
Yeah, we're definitely reaching out to the general comic book industry, the comic book media like yourselves, and e-zines and press and all that. We plan on doing a current campaign where we would send out a press release. I'm sure you've seen our video. We have a spokesperson who explained our company in a very professional quality video. His name is John. He did a great job. He's doing a great job. And so
are you going to take a con approach by any chance, and even just have like a table at a convention with just information?
Well, we definitely in California, they canceled San Diego Comic-Con and Anime Expo this year.
Obviously, after COVID, I'm not gonna make you go out in the middle of COVID and go catch it. I understand you're willing to die for this, but please don't.
Thanks. Yeah, of course we will exhibit at the big shows like San Diego Comic-Con and the shows that are available for us through the Comic Booksellers Association. And how do I say this? Yeah, so yeah, as a company, as we've been published, we have a relationship with San Diego Comic-Con since 2006 as Ego Manga. We have a booth there. We've been exhibiting with them since maybe 2010, and we have panels. So we have a very strong relationship. So we definitely, San Diego Comic-Con will be our area where we would definitely be a presence, as well as many other business to business book events for to sell books to bookstores. If we can get into other regions like New York Comic Con or C2E2, either through ourselves or through affiliates, great. But it's definitely important for us to be at these shows. And yeah, it'll be awesome to like Diamond knows that we're there. Maybe he wouldn't care, but we'll be there and to showcase and to tell retailers and publishers alike what we're all about, and just be there for them and answer any questions and such.
And then the final thing I want to talk about before I give you an opportunity to self-promote it and push it out there again is obviously you guys take a small commission fee on the back end after everything is sold. And right. So you want to clarify that, where signing up for free is free, getting once your book is uploaded, formatted properly, sent up to the printer, the shop that's ordering the books pays for all that, and then that money's sitting in your account, and then you guys take a 5% withdrawal fee for pretty much everything that was facilitated, more or less. But that doesn't happen until your book is sold and everything is processed, more or less.
That's correct. That's correct.
The creator isn't taking any, having to put up that 5% of the complete order. That's just taken out of the profit
Right.
of this. So, and I want to make that clear. So, because the other thing that I want to mention is that sometimes, a creator only does $1,100 on $1,000 Kickstarter, and there's not a lot of money that they're making, and so they don't have the capital to pay for printing. And so that's something that creators sometimes have, where they barely have enough. They have enough to get their book out to all their people, and you're also dealing with that, because then all of a sudden 500 people order their book off of your website. It's not costing them any money. They don't have to worry about that problem, because you're taking it on the back end, not the front end.
Right. And I just want to emphasize that it's 5%. We're still trying to debate at this beta stage where there'll be 5 or 10%, but our percentage would be a lot cheaper than a lot smaller than any other platform, whether it's Diamond, Amazon, any other distributor. It's not at this stage for us to be rich and successful and be this multi-billion-dollar business. What we want to build for this platform is another opportunity for other publishers to get their work out there. It's really all about just to be a resource for everyone to have a business. Basically, we're not trying to enrich ourselves, so we definitely we are going for very low returns, because we want this to be a viable tool. We don't want any type of blocker or barrier to keep people from away.
And I also want to ask this, because I don't know if I made it clear. Is that after the printing is taken care of? So is that on the entire sale, or is that on the? I guess is it the gross or the net? Because I get confused with those terms sometimes. But we'll use real numbers. Let's say that somebody sells $1,000 worth of books. The printing costs $500. It would be 10%. Would it be 10% for using the high number, or 10% is the easiest to work with for me? So would it be 100 or would it be 50?
So basically, what it would be is, you as a publisher, you have to have you have to have reach a minimum of earnings. Like, let's say,
right, our
minimum is $20. Like, if you have at least made $20 in sales, then you are eligible. Well, you're eligible to ask for your money from us. Also, you have to make sure that all of your transactions have been successfully delivered. Like, all of your books have been shipped to stores. There's no outstanding transactions, no outstanding orders or print orders that hasn't been done. So if you reach a minimum of $20, well, that's as of now. $20 are if you have reach that threshold. If you earn at least $20 in sales, and if all of your transactions are cleared, have been sent to stores and everything, then you can. You look at your balance. Look at how much you've earned as a company, and then you can request payment from us, from Comic Distro. And what we would do, we would process your payment. We will take 5 to 10%. We're still deciding.
I'm just using 10%, because 10% is the easiest number to work with.
Yeah. So we're only going to take a percentage of each time you ask money from us. So, if you let your account accumulate to $100,000 or whatnot, and then only then you want to request money from us, then that's where that 5% will factor in. But if you immediately made your $20 and you want your money now, that's fine too, 5% as well. So that's how that works. Just as long as you reach your minimum and all of your comic book transaction sales have been completed.
So on that note, let's say that every week you're bringing in $300 into your account, and that every Friday you take it out. So let's say that you can only have $300 that's available, but you have another $300 that's pending. You could take out a percentage of that. Correct?
just as long as everything's completed, like everything, like there's no
So if you have orders that are already done and those are just sitting in cash, can you take out a piece of that of what's already cleared? Do you see what I'm asking?
yes, yes, yes,
So it has to be essentially cleared, and whatever's cleared, you could take out.
yes, yes. It's just at this point we want to avoid any type of
Right.
issues or confusion or anything like that. So
I'm asking that because businesses have cash flow issues. And I understand this. I run an entire complex selling eBay business, and my
mhm,
entire business is cash flow is the greatest and worst problem I have. And so I understand where I get immediately paid on eBay when I sell something within 2 to 3 business days. And so I understand my cash flow. And I know people who maybe indie comic people are not like me because I come from much more of a business background, but cash flow it might be the answer for a lot of people, especially if they're not so interested in necessarily making money, but funding their comics. And they know that if they're selling $300 every single week of issue one, they could take that, put that into issue two. And they know that they could cash flow a problem. And so that's something that I think people are a little bit concerned about is that, I don't think I think people are very understanding about that entire position of saying, hey, the orders have to be delivered. I get paid later.
right,
I deal with a fee, which is minimal compared to the fact that I'm not outlaying any capital.
right.
Which is
Well,
the other thing too is that you might not be making as much money as a comic person, but you also put up no capital to make money. So you're going to have to give out a little bit back. And that maybe if you did all the legwork that you guys are doing to all the comic stores and all that stuff, and then you found out how to print in the right number and all that stuff, you might make a little bit more money, but you're going to be doing a hell of a lot more work,
right.
which is what
Yeah,
you
we
guys
want
are
to.
solving too, because time is money.
Right, I understand. At this stage, this is how we can. Um,
Oh, I think you're solving the problem because
yeah.
you're
Well, this
saving
is
me
how.
time and,
This is.
and you're getting rid of things that I have to do to get into comic shops. And
Right.
so therefore, it's the idea that if I was to do what you guys are doing independently as a comic creator, it would take me anywhere from 10 to 20 times longer. And in that 10 to 20 times position, if on on a good day, that means that I have given up X amount of sales versus just signing up, you guys doing all the legwork, me giving you 10% for lack of a better word, and then in the process of me now doing that, I now am selling my book. And now I can keep on building more and more books in that time to keep on selling it and uploading it and making money.
Right.
And
So
that's what you guys are
yeah,
doing. You're opening
we
up that
handle.
ability.
Yeah, we manage the storefronts and the fulfillment, and you just focus on creating your work, and that's great. We want to be. That's what our resources is for. As far as your other issue about making sure there's consistent cash flow for the publisher, this is what we can do now as our startup. As in the future, we hope to um, have other options, funding.
I want people to know that their money is never too far away. That's something that I think people are very concerned about.
Mhm.
And so what? Because I threw out a few questions to some people in the industry to ask what they wanted to know before I
Right,
did this interview. And some people said, "Hey, I'm a little bit concerned about how far is my money going to be out."
right.
You
Well,
know what I
that's
mean? In which that because you're a startup, and that is a fair argument to this degree. And so I think what I was outlining with that question, what I'm really getting at is your money isn't all that far out, all things considering. I mean, maybe from start to finish, you're looking 4 weeks on a worst case scenario, and probably on a best case scenario, maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
right. So as a publisher, I had those same issues. Like when we work with Diamond, we had to wait 30 days for us to get our money, and if we work with other distributors, we had to wait as long as like 100 and maybe 118 days, like 3 months in advance. So we definitely wanted to minimize, cut short those days you have to wait for getting money. So we felt this is the way to do it. We wanted to cover our backs by making sure that all sales are completed and successful. But at the same time, we don't want publishers to wait a month or even like 3 months to get paid for their stuff, for their work.
Because what I'm concerned about, and I'll explain my logic here, and I think this is super important, is that let's say I create a book X. I'm sure that's taken. Whoever has that book, I apologize. I sign up for you guys in week one. I sell $300 worth, and that after all the printing, I have $300 in my account. Then over the next week, I don't. As soon as I do it, every day I'm selling like $60 from Monday to Friday. So $60 every day is being processed and being printed. I don't want to ever end up in a situation because my book is doing so well that I can never withdraw money of what's already cleared. That's the problem I'm trying to get at.
Right.
And that's why it's important that when orders are cleared, you can withdraw what's cleared, but what's not cleared, you can't withdraw. And I think your system is going to be set up that way, and it is set up that way. And I want people to know that like your success isn't going to collapse you.
Well, it is definitely set up where everything has to be cleared. But like, let's say if a book
You see what I'm getting at,
yeah,
right?
it's constantly being sold, and
you're at the point where legit you've done such a good book that everybody wants to buy it, and all your orders are never cleared. Therefore, you can't withdraw money. So essentially, you have to almost take the book down for 3 days so you can withdraw your money. And then all of a sudden, you have like 30 grand in your account. You're like, oh my God, I have all this money and I'm in this problem. That's what I don't want to happen, because believe me when I tell you, in 3 years from now, you're going to have this exact problem I'm talking about. And you're like, he was completely right. And you're like, oh my God, how did this happen? I guarantee you, you're going to have this problem.
It's a great problem to have, but you're right. It's a good and bad problem to have. But thank you very much for bringing it up. And we definitely the thing is, like, we just never really,
because it will not happen to many people, but it will happen to that one person, and they're going to be calling you up so quickly, like, dude, like, help. And they're going to be like tweeting at you. Oh, it's going to be the greatest thing. You're like, I'm really sorry.
Well, bottom line,
I guarantee, because this is the exact problem. I don't want it to happen.
Well, I
know what's going to happen to me when I'm on your platform. That's what's going to happen. I know it. I just know it, but please continue.
Well, we have enough control of our system to deal with those issues. At this stage, we don't have an automated system for that type of problem, but we can definitely pay somebody like.
It'll be solved. Is my point.
It can be. We can definitely address that on a linear. What is it? On a linear base. I don't know if the right term is.
When it happens, you can address it.
We can address it now, but on an automated system, that's a problem that we never really anticipated. We didn't think a company would be too successful for that, but we can definitely address that problem when it happens on an automated basis.
Yes.
At this stage, we can definitely handle the issue as well.
But believe me, somebody brought that up to my attention. I didn't think about it on my own. So I want to make that crystal clear that problem can be dealt with, because, and I'll even go further off of a point. There might come a point where you have somebody like Scott Snyder, and I'm not saying it's coming tomorrow, but you might have somebody who says, I am sick of, the big two or the big three, and they might come to your platform because they might say, hey, look, I can make more money on your platform than anywhere else. And I think that is coming down the pike, because we've seen it with Kickstarter, and we've seen how Berserk has done. We've seen how Nocturna has done. And so if you don't think that's coming down the platform, I mean, I think that is. And that to me is the future. So
we have that from that. We have a background in that, because Ego Manga, we were one of the pioneering companies that were a part of the 2009 Kickstarter platform, one of the early manga companies, even early publishers. And it was great on that. It was great having that relationship with the CEO then and the team. But then once all of a sudden DC, Marvel came in, then we lost our visibility among these people. So I know what you're talking about. And the same happened to us when we were on other platforms like Crunchyroll and all that stuff. So we are with that the experience, we experienced that issue with ourselves. So if that problem happens, like, we do approach companies like Top Cow and and image and all that. But our mission as a company is priority first come first serve. We're not trying to be a meritocracy where we're putting the visibility on giving the most visibility to big companies and all that stuff. Whoever makes the listing first, like the latest the latest listing gets exposure first. It's a first come first serve basis. It's always going to be like that, and that's the problem with comic book industry right now. Is that there's
Yeah.
so much emphasis on the big publishers, like the Marvels, DCs, and whoever. So much attention and so much resources and so much exposure is given to them by many platforms that many publishers, I mean, soft independent publishers really have to fight even harder just to get a fraction of that exposure. So with our platform, it's not going to be like that. Because we know it's been our problem for a whole year for our whole career. It's going to be first come first serve for everybody, regardless if you're whoever you are. So that's our mission statement. And as a CEO, as a founder, that's what I truly believe in. And I definitely don't want I definitely don't want a bigger company to take all the exposure that indies do, because they have all the exposure they can get. Like these Marvels and DCs, they have so many platforms and avenues for exposure. They'll have that, but so they don't need Comic Distro to suck up somebody else's exposure.
Oh, I
So
wasn't even saying that. I was just saying maybe somebody who does comes from those sectors, does a Kickstarter and says, "Hey, I want to take the indie route because there's more opportunity here, where there's just more money for me to make to sell directly to my consumer." So, like for instance, and I hate to pick on Scott because I like Scott, but he might say, "Hey, look, I just wrote this comic book and I want to distribute it directly to comic stores because I want it cheaper for them." And also he can make more money because now I'm taking out the middleman, which I think is happening in the comic world as it sits. And so I'm not even talking about like an Image or a Top Cow or a Marvel or a DC. I'm talking about just a writer says, "Hey, I just funded this book. I forget who just hit almost 100,000 on Indiegogo, and it might have been Shane Davis, and he might say, "Hey, I got this book and I don't have a publisher beyond, who's going to be putting it out with Image like Nocturna. Maybe I want to come to Comic Distro and I throw it up there, and obviously everybody can miss this Indiegogo that's closed, but now you can get it through this, and now I can get into comic shops, and comic shops are excited for it, and all of a sudden, a lot of people in a lot of comic shops, and not to go big name, but that's the only place they can order it from, which is great for you because it's good business.
mhm.
But I don't think it's going to hurt Comic Distro or Notre, like getting
No,
attention or anything like that. I'm just saying that I think that that's a real possibility. And I think it's a great position to be in. And I think this is the future in many ways, is this type of business
thanks.
where people can go into, fund something on Indiegogo or Kickstarter or whatnot, and, they'll come to you because it's just easy to sell directly to comic shops, and comic shops want this stuff and good works. So having said that, I'm sure we're going to talk again at some point. We
Well,
have
yeah.
to.
To answer that question, that those type of publishers or creators, they can still use our platform, um, and they can have their own channel, their own audience. They can drive their own audience to that platform by linking out or sharing their page to their websites or their Indiegogos or whatever
Anybody
other things
can,
that they
right?
control. Yeah, they can. There's shared links. There are embedded code that they can embed their actual content, the catalog page on there for their website or whatever. There's many different components in widgets for
Yeah.
their comic that they can share to their community and their channels to make sure that retailers or the right people buy their books through them and all that. And and our platform is welcome to everybody. It's just a when it comes to our website, comicdistro.com, the exposure is first come, first serve. But however you share your book on your platform is on you, up to you. And there are ways that you can get exposure, additional exposure. Like you can make articles, post articles on Comic Distro about your book and who you are and all that stuff. That's great and all that. So Everyone's welcome. It's just first come, first serve, at least on our website. But you can link out, you can share, you can take components and widgets from our sites and put it onto your platform, your page, or
And I have like 15 ideas for every creator what to do now on their website. So, but anyhow, I digress right there. I'm gonna probably just start becoming consultant for them. But anyhow, so having said that, and as I stated before, I'm sure we're going to talk about at some point because I'm curious what this is going to look like in 6 months, and I'm super excited for it because it benefits me indirectly because when indie comic creators succeed, and I interview them first, I get to brag and say, hey, I was there first, guys. So obviously that's my stake in all of this. But I do want to give you an opportunity to promote yourself. I know the launch, I think, is April 18th, 17th, 18th. I don't know. I guess we're going to alpha. We're going live. I'm not exactly sure the
well,
protocol right
it's
there. But obviously, where can people find Comic Distro? Where can people find you on Facebook? Because I know you got a Facebook page. Because that's how I came across you guys. And obviously, I'm sure you're going to be putting out some more content on Facebook, and that people should obviously go like the Facebook page. I don't know if you have a Twitter. I don't know if you have an Instagram. I don't know what other social media things are out there. I don't know if you're on Clubhouse. I am not on Clubhouse. If somebody would like to send me a Clubhouse invite, please do. I need one. I don't know if you have a TikTok. All the cool kids have one. Apparently, I'm not cool. So we ended that discussion today and everything in between. And obviously, though, I think where can people really find this is where I want to know, and how do people, just get involved and check it out.
yeah, it's comicdistro.com, and we do have a Twitter, Facebook, Instagram page. Our whatever we lit any new listings that we list on Comic Distro automatically is posted on these Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter pages. So that's how we add new content on those platforms and things. And yeah, we just want to be a resource for publishers to get their books in stores, and we just feel that there needs to be another way as opposed to just working with the establishment, which is Diamond at the moment.
Yeah, no, as I stated, I'm very excited. And obviously, this is geared towards two groups specifically, obviously, comic retailers and comic, creators and editors and anthology producers as well. And so this interview, for those who are interested, is sort of different than the others, where this is definitely geared towards two groups specifically. And so obviously, for those comic creators, my recommendation, and you could add to it if you would like, but my idea is, hey, look, just check out the website, read the FAQ, look at the library that's out there, and obviously sign up. And I'm going to take a leap of faith that you don't have to immediately, if you're a comic creator, necessarily put your comic up the second you sign up.
No, we don't.
Look around a little bit first and then decide.
Yeah, we have a lot of people signed up. They haven't uploaded things yet. We have been encouraging them to upload things, but we're willing to help them at this stage to help them upload their content.
And even before you sign up, and I know that you want people to sign up, so obviously sign up, and I think it's a good move. And look, I get that people might say, hey, I want to get all my rewards out to my Kickstarter backers first and foremost because I feel like they deserve it first, which I actually tend to agree with that. If I back something on Kickstarter, I would like to get my thing before somebody on Comic Distro because I back the project. So I'm a strong believer in that. There's no legal issue with that as far as what I can do as a backer. But I will say that I just view it morally that's how it should go. But more importantly, what I'm going to encourage to every interviewer I do and everybody in all the comic groups, take a look around on the website before you sign up. See what's out there. Obviously, read the FAQ. You guys answer a lot of questions. Hopefully you'll watch this, and I'm going to be shooting this out to everybody in all these comic groups. And obviously, hopefully, a bunch of their questions will be handled. And then to the comic retailers, obviously, also take a look around. And I think that if you're a retailer, you sign up. You don't have to upload anything. You just have to wait. and see, hey, this looks cool, this looks cool, this looks cool. And also, you know what it is, if you're a comic retailer, ask your patrons and ask your customers, hey, what comics do you like? What indie stuff do you know about? And maybe as a comic retailer, you guys need to sort of, just my advice to all these shops and say, hey, are you guys interested in indie? And kind of get a consensus on that. So that's my advice to both of those groups. And I don't know if you have any advice to both of those groups as the founder and CEO of this company.
You said it very well.
So I'm going to give you the final word on all of this, because what else do you want to say to convince people to check it out? And what is the final selling point?
We are reimagining comic book distribution. That's our final word. We want other people. We want another avenue for people to sell their books at stores. That's all we really want to do.
Yeah, no, and I'm very, very excited for it. And I think that's a wrap right there.
Thank you.